Naturally, I spend a lot of time talking about empathy because I think firstly, when you're thinking about philosophy or psychology or sociology, empathy is a pretty important emotion. It's a pretty important factor into that. But particularly when you're trying to become kind of quote unquote a better person, empathy is one of the key traits that drives that. It's not the only one, but it's an important one. It allows you to get perspective outside your own. It allows you to understand how somebody else is feeling, right? We've talked a lot about empathy. But I was thinking about it recently, and through a conversation I was having with somebody, we were talking about people that believe they're empathetic and what the downsides of that might be. And I actually did a video about that at one point, that there's kind of three types of empathy and it's kind of progression. So I won't get back into that full piece of it, although that is really interesting. But it started getting us thinking about like where empathy could be a bad thing or where it could break bad, I guess. And what we identified was when you mix empathy with arrogance, that's, I think, where you get into some trouble. Now, you might say when you mix most things with arrogance, you get into some trouble, and I would agree with you. But I think empathy and arrogance are a particularly nasty kind of cocktail because of the way they feed off each other and the way they interact. So what do I mean by that? Well, empathy, and there's lots of different ways you can define it, so I'll just kind of use a generic form right now for the sake of this discussion. But empathy, if you take it to mean ultimately feeling like you can understand what somebody else is going through, you can understand what they're feeling, you can kind of put yourself in their shoes. If you have that, right? And let's say you're even self-aware enough to be aware that you have that and to know that that's a skill you possess or something that you're really good at practicing. And let's assume it's in earnest, in that you practice that empathy because you care about people. You care about the people you empathize with. You want to better understand them because you want them to be happy or to be better in some way. You don't want them to suffer or be in pain or to hurt. So that's good, right? That empathy is good. It's good that you're able to put yourself in their shoes, et cetera, all the things you'd imagine. But arrogance now introduces this idea of extreme confidence, sometimes even going as far as certainty, but extreme confidence in your ability to do something, right? Your ability to read a situation, to understand the dynamics at play, to determine what the best course of action would be to fix it, right? It's an inflated sense of your abilities. And when you pair that with empathy, what can happen is you see a situation, you see somebody suffering, you see somebody dealing with something, whatever it might be, and you feel that pain. Your empathy kicks in, you understand it, you feel it, you can put yourself in their shoes, and you care about them genuinely, and you're worried about them, and you want them to be better. But then that arrogance kicks in, right? And all of us, right, when we see that, our minds are kind of naturally designed this way. We think about what we can do to fix it, what we can do to help, what might make the situation better, because we don't want to feel that pain that we're empathizing with them. We don't want them to feel that pain. But that arrogance kicks in, and it tells us, I have the answer. I know I have the answer. I know how to help that person, right? I have extreme confidence, right? You wouldn't think of it this way, but in reality, I have this inflated sense of confidence in my abilities to solve this problem that person's having, to eliminate their suffering, to fix whatever it is wrong with them. And when you put that together with empathy, you now create this situation where you're almost telling that person what's better for them. You're deciding what should happen to them. You're deciding what's going to fix their pain. It's almost like you're extending that empathy into the solution, or at least aspects of that empathy into the solution, to say, not only do I feel your pain, right? I can feel that. I can also channel in and figure out exactly how to fix it for you. And I'm going to do that because that's what arrogance does. Arrogance tells you, your mind tells you when there's arrogance at play, like, you're right. You have the answer and you're a good person and you understand that person's suffering. So what other logical conclusion could you have but then to do it, to either maybe force that person into whatever solution you think is best, or at least demand that they listen to you and do what you're suggesting, or at least just be very aggressive and assertive in your presentation of that. And we all know people like that. We've all probably done that at times. I know I have, right? If you have a kid, I'm sure you've done it. Where it does what arrogance does. It closes you off Ironically, it kind of does the opposite of empathy, right? And that's where I said this weird cocktail that plays in. It closes you off to actually looking at it from different perspectives. It closes you off from entertaining the idea that maybe I don't see this perfectly. Maybe this isn't the best solution. But not only does it close it off, again, it still latches on to aspects of that empathy, which tells you somebody is suffering here. Like, I don't have time to waste. I can't play around. I can't mince words. I can't do anything but get to the solution because I know there's pain and I know I have the answer, so I have to fix it. And listen, all this is to say is, as all these videos do, none of this is meant to be simple. This is all nuanced. This is all complex. Somebody that does this, which again, I would argue most of us, if not all, probably do, it's not illogical. It's not even necessarily rooted in some ill intentions or trying to hurt somebody, obviously. It's all rooted in something that feels right and good. And that's the danger of it, right? That's the danger of thinking this way. That's the danger of letting arrogance seep in. It's the danger of allowing yourself to believe I have the answer and I don't need to look any further. I don't even need to think about it anymore. Because when you get to this point, look how the cards are stacked against you. You see somebody suffering. You feel with almost certainty you have the answer, right? And you have no ability to really step outside of it and look at it. And you feel like, hey, I'm doing the right thing here. I'm helping somebody. It's justifying in your own mind why you need to take the approach you take, whether that be, too assertive, too aggressive, whatever it might be. And you see these dynamics play out all the time, right? I'm kind of dancing around the obvious, which is the vaccine mandate. And I don't want to get into that because it's not necessarily about that. That might be an example of this, but that's not my intent. My intent is much broader than that. You see these things happening where you see this person who is in pain or suffering in some way, and somebody is almost hurting them more to try and help them. And I think this is a dynamic that's often at play when that happens. This empathy mixed with arrogance, which is, again, just a really bad cocktail and really bad mix. So I think it's something to look out for. When you are being empathetic, and hopefully we all are, when you're trying to help somebody, make sure that you're checking that arrogance at the door. Make sure you're exercising some humility and some open-mindedness to really think of it from different perspectives before you just jump to it being like, hey, I have the moral high ground here. I know I'm helping somebody. I know I'm right, and I'm going to go.